what does that mean to you? What about not having a significant other is painful for you? Not that it might not be for anybody, but why is it for you? How do we move into just straight desire for it? It's almost impossible to feel bad about not having something unless it's something you really, really want.
Yes.
If you can move from feeling bad about not having it to just that naked desire, then it starts being like magic, like the hurdle jumpers.
You write about the power of acceptance. Can you explain what that is?
People tend to believe if I accept something, then I can't change it. But really, acceptance is the foundation for change. It just means to receive with consent.
Welcome to the Jimmy Jim James Show. My name is James Antoyan, the owner of a real estate company in Riverside, California. Here at the Jimmy Jim James Show, we're going to have a myriad of guests, some celebrities, some inspirational people, maybe even some rock stars, who knows. We're also going to have some different days of doing business and real estate, and maybe even a show called The Judge and Jury. But more importantly, I think I'm going to listen to all the listeners and see what they want to see from us. So stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, and make it happen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Jimmy Jim James Show. I am so excited to have my guest, Mandy Evans, on the show today. Mandy changed my life, and I hope that you will allow her to change your life by buying her books, possibly going to see her yourself. She will make you a better person, and she will change all the beliefs that you have compounded in your brain somehow, some way, from all of the upbringing and things that have come into your life. You'll have a clearer picture and feel so much better. I know she's changed my life, and I know she can change yours. But let me just tell you a little bit about Mandy. Mandy Evans is a pioneer in the field of self-inquiry. She draws on decades of experience as a workshop leader, an author, a coach, as speaker to help people to break out from hidden barriers to their success and happiness. Mandy has coached all kinds of people, from best-selling authors and award-winning performers to others who can barely get out of bed. Interested to talk to you about that. She has spoken in prisons and churches and taught 3 illiterate adults how to read. Mandy is also an author, and you need to get both her books. I believe they're both on Amazon. Emotional Options, a Handbook for Happiness, and my favorite, Traveling Free, How to Recover from the Past by Changing Your Beliefs. So welcome, Mandy.
Well, thank you. What a treat. What a kick to be here.
Yeah, so good to have you. Let's just get started. I mean, what do you mean by hidden beliefs that block happiness and success?
Well, as we go through life, we come to conclusions. A very popular belief that's not really always true is that it's something we were taught, that something, somebody else told us. But a lot of our beliefs are just conclusions we came to as we go through life. And then that becomes our own personal belief system that we live by without really being aware of it. I know very few people who ever question, what they're believing and how it affects what they do. But a lot of the beliefs that block happiness and success, as I said, they're hidden. We're not aware of them, are things like, if I were happy, I wouldn't do anything. That's a really common belief that many people have, but they don't really know it. I mean, I don't know many people who go around saying, if I were happy, I wouldn't do anything. But you can find out if you get in the habit of always questioning doubt about what you can have and what you can be, what you can become, and and feelings that you don't like having, like anger, fear, anxiety. If you always question them, then you kind of delve into that world of hidden beliefs. And that belief that if I were happy, I wouldn't do anything comes up all the time when people are talking about all kinds of problems. And if I ask them, what are you concerned would happen if you weren't angry? What are you concerned would happen if you didn't feel bad about that? What are you concerned would happen if you didn't feel guilty? And they always have reasons like, well, I would be a horrible person, or I wouldn't, the anger one, if I weren't angry, I would let people walk all over me. I wouldn't do anything about it. I wouldn't confront things. So that's a really common example of beliefs that are just deeply hidden, but we live by them, which is kind of a weird thing to realize.
So if there's hidden beliefs, then are those things that, let's say, are on advertising, are like subliminal kind of? When you say hidden beliefs, are they just things that are kind of like in our environment that we, the radio, the TV, the commercials we watch, the
Well, they're a great source, but a lot of them are just things we decide ourselves. Like, I don't know, you have a bad day on the playground when you're 2 years old, and you decide, well, I better always avoid boys with red hair. Or, I mean, that's a
well, maybe
ludicrous
it's maybe
example.
it's in your genetics to think you think a certain way or you observe things,
Yeah,
differently than.
but but you're absolutely right about ones that we hear in advertising. The beliefs about deserving. I think it started with "you deserve a break today," which we've all heard, and now it is the marketing ploy for everything. I mean, if you start listening to ads for the word deserving, it's in almost every, lawyers are advertising to get you the verdict you deserve, get you the payment you deserve. It's just endless. And then people have an enormous amount of beliefs about deserving that they're really not. I don't mean hidden like it's a deep dark secret. I mean just they're there, but we're not aware of them, like they're in a drawer. um, People have enormous amount of beliefs about not deserving things, not being deserving of love, or um, oh, I know, so someone recently I worked at wanted to be a really successful entrepreneur and was well on his way, and then said, but I'm afraid I don't deserve it. I actually worked with a Grammy award winning songwriter who told me I walked down the aisle to get my award telling myself, you don't deserve this, you don't deserve this, you don't deserve this. I mean, how poignant is that?
I've suffered from the same belief system, right? And that's why I love the work that you do because and I think I've told you this before is that you 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 put I've been through therapy my entire life and I came to see you and I didn't have another therapist. I think I came and see you a couple of times and you ask the questions and you make the person realize how stupid their beliefs are that they're believing in, right? Like for me, I used to have the fear of success, and also I always had the doubts of that I was worthy of what I was accomplishing in my life, and and I overcame those. I mean, I'm sitting here today. You and I are having this discussion because of the fact that you really allowed me to realize that I can just go for it, that I can just go for it and do what I want to do. And but it was the process that you took me through your therapy that you teach that really I saw it for myself. You made me see it for myself, and I said to myself, "God, I'm so stupid for thinking like this. It's ridiculous." But mine came from. We talk about hidden beliefs, but mine, I believe, really came from my history, right? I had parents or I had a mother who, she did as good as she could, but I was called stupid, you're never going to amount to anything, all of those things. And you hear those things enough while you're a young impressionable child, you're going to become that person, right? And so I think that the majority of my, problems came from that kind of an environment. So what would you call those beliefs? They're not hidden beliefs. They would be.
They're hidden in a way that we don't realize we're operating from them. Um, Again, that not hidden like you can't ever find them. Um, the reason I smiled so much when you were talking about you're thinking your beliefs were stupid is that's wonderful and rare. If we could all share that kind of delight when we realize we've been living by something that's totally stupid,
Yes.
it would be so much easier. Most people have a very, very hard time with that, with realizing they've lived their whole life believing something they now see is stupid. But you took such delight in it. I love it. When you talk about it, you say, and then you asked me a question and I thought about it and I answered. And then I thought, well, that's so stupid.
Right.
And I mean, you're home free when you realize that and don't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
That's another really self-defeating belief that if I realize I've made a mistake, or if I realize I've lived 10, 20, 30, 40, 80 years believing something that really is kind of stupid now that I look at it, then I should feel really, really bad. So that's another belief that you should feel really bad when you see you believing something that was wrong. But yeah, if you've been told your whole life, you know, you mentioned in my bio that I've taught 3 adults that were illiterate how to read. And that was amazing. It was one of the most exciting things in my life to look at what is it that they're believing that's not true. That's a really important element. We're only talking about things that we believe that get in our way that aren't true. But all of them, one woman believed she was, her words, retarded. And she was one of the smartest people I've ever known. But when she was a very young, when she was a baby, she was given away. Just people just said, "Here, you take her. No paperwork, no agencies." She wasn't put into school till she was 8. Then she didn't know anything, so they put her in special ed classes. And I said, "Were the kids you were in class with really, developmentally disabled?" She said, "That was pretty messed up." And and she would shake. She would just start to shake. Her knees would just go like this when she would tackle a new word, and it was like jumping hurdles each time. And towards the very end, when she didn't get like reading Shakespeare, but she was able to read a book to her daughter, and I know she went on from there. And I said, "You don't still believe you're retarded, do you?" And she said, "Oh, I never believed that." And then I said, "But you said," and she said, "I know, but I never really thought it was true." So that's an example about how you can live by something that in your heart you know isn't true. But as you said, everybody's told it to you, everybody said it, and you have no reason to doubt it. So you just accept it, and as you said, live by it.
Yeah.
And how poignant! 'Cause she was really, really smart.
Right. You know, I really believe in my, at least I can only speak for my journey in life so far, but when you mentioned, you know, like realizing that you have, like, I never not felt, I always felt like there was a better, something better for me, right? Even though I grew up in this environment, which caused all my limiting beliefs, I kept pushing forward all the time. But the reason why I kept pushing forward, and this is where I want to do some other shows on too, is that I saw people with a better life, right? I was around it. I saw it. And I really believe that, you know, look, we talk about manifestation and things like that. You know, I'm on my second manifestation period. I don't know if I told you this, but because I've achieved everything that I dreamt about when I was a child. But I dreamt thinking that the life that I have now was the ultimate life. Now I'm here experiencing it and I want more. You know, I want
Mhm.
just a more robust life. And so I couldn't manifest that when I was at that age because I had never seen it. Now that I've seen
Mhm.
it, I want that I want that part of life as well. So I think
Yeah,
it's
it's a
just
true.
really like for kids that are, you know, in social service programs and things like that that have very limited capabilities of getting out there and seeing things like, you know, you don't know what's out there, you don't know what to achieve for, right? If you're only looking at a certain environment your entire life, whatever that is, that's all you know
Mhm.
life is. That's all you've been taught. That's all you've seen for yourself, right? It keeps getting recorded in your head that this is the life that I'm going to have instead of getting
Mhm.
out there and seeing a bigger life.
Yeah, that's a belief we'll talk about hidden beliefs. There's a belief. Well, actually, belief isn't really the most accurate word. It's your own perception of reality, and it's very common that we all, well, I think probably all of us, have some kind of a sense of this is my lot in life, and it doesn't have to be true.
Mm-hmm.
One of the people I taught how to read was a neighbor. I lived in a little town, Rosendale, New York. It was upstate from New York City, and it'd been a bad town forever. It was a bad mining town. It was a bad hippie town. And I loved it. I fit right in.
And it was cold.
Rosendale, New
It's
York.
cold. Yeah.
It's a wonder. Now it's a very kind of artsy town, but still very very free and open. And a weird little town. Anyway, my neighbor that I taught how to read, she had 12 kids and she was a widow and illiterate. And as she learned how to read, and we became really good friends, and she said her name was Mary Gail Weller, and she was always happy for me to tell me her name. And she said, I tell my kids, not no Gail Weller's never going to get nowhere in this world. And she said it proudly, like an example of what a good mother she was, giving it to her kids straight. And I said, Mary, you might not want to tell them that. And she said, why? And I said, well, it might not have to be true. And you should have seen her face. She said, oh, I never thought of that. It's a perfect example of what you're saying. And, we see it. Like you said, you saw people. I mean, we all, if you watch television, you see people who have stuff that you can't even imagine you could ever have. So we know it's out there. And somehow your heart never stops wanting it
Right.
inside, But then how do you get there how do you get there from here? And as you said, you can't really get to where you're looking to go now. It's, one step at a time or a leap at a time.
Right. Right.
But that's why I wrote my books, because, there's only one of me and I'm old. So I, I really wrote them as a way for people to take step by step how to find, if you just question every time you want something and it seems doable, other people can have it, but it seems like you can't. If you really question that, well, why do I believe that? What's true about it? What am I afraid would happen if I didn't believe it? And, I can't just get here now, you hand it to you. I would if I could.
Right.
But I wrote a book, it's only that big.
Right.
Really to help people. And I wish every kid in foster care would have a copy of it. I wish everybody in prison would have a copy of it.
I wish so too. I wish so too. Another thing when I came to see you too, what I gathered was I said to myself, I wish that, because you made me so easily see how stupid my belief system was, that I thought to myself, your therapy would be so amazing on drug addicts and alcoholics and people like that, because what they're doing, I think the large percentages, and I don't know, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I would perceive that the large amount of people that are in those categories are people that haven't taken accountability for their lives, right? And I think in your processes, it causes you to take accountability because you're answering the questions and you have to think about them, and it's all about you, right? And I just thought to myself that I think that and then I think what happens with those people is whatever trouble they had in their lives, it just is compounding, right? And now they're alcoholics, and it's just on their mind constantly, and it's just their self-fulfilling prophecy more and more and more and more, instead of having accountability and trying to work through the problems.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons why AA is so successful, because they really do. People just go around and talk about their lives and how they are, but most addicts are really, have 100 reasons why they can't go.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. You can all sit around and kumbaya in a circle and talk about your troubled lives, but
Mhm.
is somebody asking them the questions like you ask them, and is somebody are they getting the responses back? You know what I'm saying? Yes, it's good to share because
I
it gives
do
you a
know.
platform to release it and all of
I
those
do
things.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they're a great combination. I would never want to try to trump AA because they're an incredible organization and they have amazing things happen.
Right.
But people have to go.
Right.
But that's why I wrote Traveling Free, How to Recover from the Past, because I'm an adult child of a violent alcoholic father that I didn't know very well. I don't know that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he was never violent with me.
Uh-huh.
But he would get in bar fights all the time and lose. He'd be in the hospital because he was drunk, so of course he lost. Uh, and he would get violent with my mother before they split up when I was just a little baby. But so I went to adult children of alcoholics meetings for about a year, and I uncovered all this stuff that I hadn't come in contact with, like you were saying about you don't know what's out there.
Right.
So I went to that first meeting, and I saw all these things we all had in common that I never put together as related. And I got so excited. I went two, 3 times a week for about a year, and then I thought I want to combine this with the work I've done all my life. And so I did a workshop called Beyond the Past. And people started crying when they signed in. And I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? I've got a room full of people in tears, and we didn't even start.
Yeah.
And I think, what was I thinking? How did I have the audacity to think I could have any impact in this situation? But I just, took a deep breath and pulled my socks up and started out with the very first thing is accepting yourself and other people exactly as you are, because you're not going to make any progress while you're judging yourself or anybody else.
Hmm.
And then just little by little. And I did the workshop about 4 times, and it was so intense and so powerful, but so it just did me in, every
Uh-huh.
time I did it. So then I wrote the book, and it's a workshop. It's a work. You said it was your favorite.
Yeah.
It's a workshop in a book, so people can do it on their own.
You know how I found you. I don't know if you remember, but I found you through the book The Secret. And you
Mhm.
were mentioned in that book, which is a very powerful manifestation book. Everybody should read that book, because your mind it basically works off that your mind is so strong. I mean, if you think about athletes, that's what they do. They visualize. Visualization is manifestation. So if you want a certain life, you can visualize it and walk yourself through it, just like the athletes do time and time again. They see hurdles, and if you're a hurdle jumper, and they visualize themselves running that race and being the fastest ever, and they do it for weeks and weeks before a race.
Mhm.
So anyway, I got you out of that book, and then let me ask you this. So the Handbook for Happiness, and then How to Recover from the Past by Changing Your Beliefs, which is, like you said, they're little, but they're mighty. Which one would you suggest the viewers purchase? Is there a number you purchase one, and then the second one, is there one and two? Is there both at the same time, you think? What do you think?
It would depend on what you want. Emotional options is for anybody who's feeling anything they don't like feeling, or anybody that just wants to be happier,
Such as what?
such as that they're always worried. They don't like being always worried, but they're always worried. Or they get angry so often that it threatens their job and their relationships and their family life. Um, or well, just I just feel sad about things, or I'm afraid of what'll happen if I do this, if I do that. Or anybody that just wants to be happier, that wants to be happier beyond their wildest
Yeah,
dreams.
yeah.
Read that. Traveling Free, How to Recover from the Past is for anybody who's had a really tough experience in their life that still has an impact on them. Because and that's where that's how I got into my own book,
Right.
was because my childhood was kind of tough. There have been a lot harder ones, but it was tough enough. Um,
Was it tough?
so,
Was it tough because of your father being the alcoholic, or what other problems did you have or
well,
issues?
so just recently, I don't know, I saw a video that's been going around about a father singing a song to and dancing with his kid, and
Uh,
it's a wonderful, beautiful video. And all of a sudden, I'm 82. My eyes filled up with tears. Well, I just thought, I never danced with my father, ever. Uh, so there, and it was ongoing. My mother used to say, I don't have a maternal bone in my body.
oh.
And I'm here to testify. Hear me.
Hallelujah.
Glory be, that woman was telling the truth.
Don't need to tell me twice, right?
So we lived with my grandparents and an aunt who was very dear, and had a schizophrenic break when I was about 11, and watched the whole family dealing with that in the 50s when nobody knew how to deal with that. Not that people know now, that they know a lot more. And I just had no idea the impact that it had on my life until I went to adult children of alcoholics meetings. I was just into getting through, First, I was just like so many of us, just getting through life. And then I had this career I loved, and I was exploring everybody else's unhappiness, and I was okay.
Right.
But I didn't realize that, there's no way I would have been doing this had I not explored a lot of my past. So if something hard happened in your life that you think still is having an impact, then traveling free is the one to start with.
Okay. Well, it's funny that we were having this discussion because one of my questions to you was going to be, do we ever get rid of the pain? And what I meant by that is I suffer from the same, like, I've always been kind of sentimental and a softie. I don't know whether
Mm-hmm.
that's just, genetically, or it's because of all the trauma that I've had. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. But, I see something and I just, there's certain movies I can't even watch because I'll just bawl the whole time because it resonates so much of my life that I don't want to go through it again. So I
Good.
was laying on the couch watching TV and having kind of an emotional moment of a movie that I was watching. And I thought, does this ever stop? Like, and maybe I haven't gotten rid of it all. Like, I think I have, but like, so my question to you is, and you kind of gave me the answer already, that you were watching something and kind of teared up thinking like, I didn't get to dance with my father ever, so forth and so on. So maybe it doesn't ever really leave us.
I don't know. I don't know if it's fresh pain. Like, that was the first time I'd ever had that thought.
Oh,
So it was a fresh response to it.
uh,
Um, I, I, I think a reasonable goal is to not have experiences from the past determine what experiences you can have now. Now, if you're sensitive, if you have a soft heart, you'll probably always be touched. I mean, I'm kind of glad that I cry easily. I'm very moved by
but I
it's
think I
almost
cry
kind.
and then I get really, uh, you know, then it becomes like a pity party kind of a thing. Like, it's not like you know what I mean? Like, I cry about the emotion I'm saying and like whatever it is, and I'm like, oh, well, why don't I have a significant other? Why don't I have, and I kind of start doing that. I have to pick myself up and keep a mood.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Then that's fresh territory to explore. What does that mean to you? That what about not having, for example, a significant other is painful for you? Not that it might not be for anybody, but why is it for you?
Yeah.
And then how do we move from something, it being painful that we don't have something, how do we move into just straight desire for it? Because I know this is hard to hear. It's even hard to say because when you really confront a belief, it kind of scrambles your brain, a mind too. But it's hard to feel bad about not having something unless you really want it.
Say that again.
So, yeah, I see it really is.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's hard to even to hold it to say it. It's it's almost impossible to feel bad about not having something unless it's something you really, really want.
Yes.
So if you can move from feeling bad about not having it to just that naked desire, then it starts being like magic, like the hurdle jumpers. I guarantee you, if you could make that leap into just the kind of desire that goes, oh, I want to do a podcast and have Mandy on.
Right.
And boom, 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 we just did it. But it's like magic. I mean, how many people ever get to do this
Right.
in their lives? And here we are. I mean, it's impossible. Here we're doing it. But neither one of us had a big doubt about whether we could do it. And neither one of us felt bad about, oh, I've never done a podcast. And why everybody,
Right.
we didn't have that experience. But you can get stuck in that like quicksand,
Yeah.
like you said. So the essence of all my work is, well, how do you move out of that quicksand of
Yes.
feeling horrible about not what you didn't have to letting yourself just really want it without a whole lot of doubt and fear and that's the work. That's the hard part, but
Yeah.
it's actually fun too.
It's fun for you.
Well, it was fun for you.
Right, right. I took it as kind of like, I live my life that everything that happens to me happens for a reason. Whether, when I sat on the couch and I got emotional and I felt like the feelings were like I was pity party, I'm like, okay, what is this telling me? Immediately I look at myself and I say, this is happening for what reason? And it's happening to me because obviously I need to focus. We all run 1,000,000 miles an hour, right? And I need to focus more my energy into getting what I want, which is, having a relationship. So I just, that's how I took it, is that, okay, I'm glad this showed up because now this is making me think like, okay, I really need to go after this.
And it's example of what we were talking about at the really beginning of the conversation. When you're feeling some way you don't like feeling, that's always a clue that you're believing something that's not true.
Yeah.
So,
Mandy, let me ask you this. I don't interrupt you, but let me ask you this. What I remember, and I still take this into consideration when things happen to me. But I remember when I came to see you, you asked me, I believe you did, about like, do you feel it anywhere in your body when you have these, thoughts or emotions or this or that? But does that happen to a lot of people where you can, like for me, I can tell like in my body when I'm feeling a certain way. Like not that I'm feeling like all of the whole day, but like fear or when I used to have the fear of success, and I could feel it in my body, I could see it in my actions. Does that happen to everybody?
Everybody's different, but I try when I'm with somebody to tune in as clearly and completely as I can to what's going on with them. And I'm fairly sensitive. I frequently can kind of feel the same thing they're feeling. And when it's strong, I'll always ask about it, And then it's also a way for people to get in touch with what they're feeling, because we have these little labels of emotions that they don't. They're like titles of books, they're not the whole book. So, I feel angry doesn't encompass, my throat is tight and I'm, I'm clenched, right? You have to stand up,
Right.
in my solar plexus and my shoulders are tense. And I might not even know to call that anger, and that might even not be the right word for it, but it's a strong feeling I'm having. And so we can use that to say, and what is that strong feeling about? And go from there. We don't always have to have the right label for we're not diagnosing here.
Right. Well,
We're exploring.
how can people that have never been aware of that they have hidden beliefs, but their life just, it's always like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? So how can they find out where the hidden beliefs are that they're holding back, that are causing them to have these lives where they're telling themselves?
I did a podcast with actually Joe Vitale, who was in The Secret that you read about.
Right.
And he said, well, other than reading your book, how could people find out? And I went, well, why would it have to be other than reading my book?
Right.
So I don't want to sound like an infomercial here, but, I really did put everything I've learned as clearly and helpfully as I could into that book. I can answer it in one sentence, and I don't, and I hope it would help people. And we've already said it a few times, but it could be, I could say it 1,000 times. I could stand on a top of a roof with a banner and yell it. Anytime you're feeling some way you don't like feeling, you're really angry and you don't want to be, you're afraid of asking somebody for something, you don't want to be afraid. If every time that happens to you, or anytime you want something that seems like people can have it, but you can't, if you just start questioning that, why am I angry? What am I angry about? And why is anger the way to feel? Or the doubts. That there's a postcard I saw once, if you're going to question something, question your limits. Like, why isn't any Gail Weller ever going to get no place in this world? That's doesn't have to be true at all. So, if you begin just by questioning it, and then what I tried to put in the book was just a clear, easy way to understand, well, how do you go about doing that? The man that I studied with, my work started out based on something called the option method. And he said, if I were going to teach it to somebody in one sentence, it would be this. Most likely, if you're feeling some way you don't like feeling, you believe you have to. Let's look together and see if that's true. And you find out that because you ask somebody, well, why are you angry about that? They say, well, wouldn't anybody be? Because whatever we're feeling seems like, well, that's the way you have to feel.
Right.
Wouldn't anybody? But you can see a situation. I did a workshop once, and everybody in it, had some kind of common thread, which often happens. We're drawn together mysteriously. And one woman said, very young, lovely woman, said, I just wish for once I could feel like I had a right to exist on this planet. And the responses were, I wish I had a video of it, because one woman said that she was just furious. She said, how could anybody as lovely and wonderful as you believe anything like that? What kind of a world is this where that happens? And I said, what about that makes you angry? And she said, well, wouldn't anybody be? And we went around the room, and everybody felt differently. One woman felt very, very sad that this young girl was experiencing that. A young man said, I really feel bad because I haven't been sensitive enough and as good enough a friend to notice and be somebody she could tell that to. And everybody in the room had a whole different, complete feeling. But I'm sure each one of them thought, well, that's the only way to feel.
Yeah, I mean, everybody receives everything differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I am gonna plug your books some more, but I'm because and not that you've ever asked me to, but I will tell you this: the book is great, and the book, the reason why I contacted you in the first place was because of The Secret. But I thought, well, if you're working with one of the guys who was instrumental in participating in the book, The Secret, that you must be pretty damn good. So, and I was looking for, like I told you, I'd been my whole life in therapy, but I was just looking for that extra, I was tired of that. I just needed somebody. And when I read your book, I was like, oh my God, this is me, the person of hidden beliefs, right? And sabotaging behavior of success, hidden beliefs that I'm not good enough and, I'm not worthy enough and all of those kinds of things. And so I did read the book, but sitting down with you, um, really puts it, because when you read some things you don't understand, some things and you're kind of that. If you go to see you, it's the shortcut version, which is you could read the book, but then you're going to really put it all right into play, and you don't have to sit there being me. I don't have to sit there and
Mhm.
ask myself the questions. Somebody else is going to take care of that for me, and I'm going to sit back and just really be in tune with it. So I
Mhm.
do think that you need to get the books for sure. And they're on Amazon, right?
Yep.
And
Just Mandy Evans. Look up Mandy Evans, and there are two of them.
Mandy Evans, and then your website's mandyevans.com.
Yep.
And,
Easy to believe.
but
I agree. It's much better. I mean, if I could clone myself, if I could make myself available to everybody, like if I could be available to every foster child in the earth, um, I would be happy to. That's why I'm so glad we're doing this, because hopefully it will open some views and some avenues of escape for people, without reading the book or without seeing me or anything. But yeah, it'd probably be much better to hang out with Shakespeare than to just read Romeo and Juliet. Not that,
see,
not that I'm equating myself to Shakespeare. Like, I'm blushing. That came out a little
maybe it's
differently from
Juliet.
what I had
Maybe
in
it's
mind.
Juliet.
It is. But yeah, and so actually, one of the things about the books are I wrote them as workshops. My vision, which has not happened yet, maybe it will now, would be that therapists and coaches and teachers would use the book with a group, because there's the magic of other people seeing, things that you can't see yourself, and being able to see things in other people that you relate to, that you wouldn't have occurred to you otherwise. Um, do we need to deal with
No,
that?
no, I'm good.
No. Okay. Um, so, and also with a friend, either book would be wonderful to work with just two people, to just read it and together ask each other the questions, and listen and ask and explore
That
together.
would work
Yeah,
really well. That would work
yeah,
really well.
yeah.
I think I shared with you, and I mentioned another podcast and media. Um, and I can't remember the guy's name. It's John. It'll come to me. Anyway, it's a book called John Bradshaw, A
Hmm.
Homecoming, and it's that
Hmm.
same thing that at the end, the last couple chapters are really heavy, and he's like, you have to be with somebody to do them, which I never
Hmm.
ended up completing them, but I'm here healthy, and I think okay. But the rest of the book was really great. But so I really would get that. Yeah, you're right. You know, take a
It's
friend, go
easier
away
to,
for the weekend, and do it.
yeah, or just a friend that just meet once a week, or when I was teaching Mary Gaylor how to read, we just got to school, met every morning right after the kids went off to school for a little while, just to go through. It would only take 3 or 4 or 5 days, however you space them out. But it's a lot easier to walk into the dark woods by holding somebody's hand.
Right, right.
And by dark woods, I just mean the unknown, because you are exploring things in yourself that you don't know about. And that's not the easiest thing to do in the world.
How many? I mean, I don't. You were the first person I ever came across that did this type of therapy. Um, are there a lot of people that do it across the United States, or is it?
No, I wish there were. I have trained some people to do it. I've done 3 or 4 coach trainings that were week-long trainings, and but all those people have just gotten a little bit of it and then blended that in with what they were already doing. And um not explain. No, there's just me. I mean, this.
So
I
you kind of took teachings and learnings and then put it into the therapy that you use now, right?
Yeah, I've been calling it breakout coaching.
Breakout
You
coaching.
know, um, and there are
You're
two
the
or three
queen of
people.
breakout coaching. You want to break
The
out of
queen.
your life? Call the queen.
Yeah, I'm the queen, but I'm the only one in my kingdom, so I don't know how big that crown is.
You're still the queen. You're still the queen, Mandy.
Thank you.
At least in my eyes, you are. I'm not kidding you. You really, I just really want to thank you. You really changed my life like immensely, immensely. So I'm happy to also call you friend at the same time.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
James.
So, well, you know, like I said to you, like I was like, you know, because I just start thinking. So when I left you, I remember after our sessions, I left. I thought, Jesus, that this her the way she does this needs to be happening, in you know, for drug addicts and alcoholics and all of these people. Because I just thought like this is what they need. They don't need just like you know regular therapy, and everybody's got problems, and they've got to look at their own problems, you know. And I was talking to a you know, the homeless population is crazy, as you know. And I'm the CEO of a property management company. And so we have a property and we had vagrant problems, homeless problems. And so the sheriff came, like 9 cars of sheriffs all pulled in. And so we're trying to get these guys out of the building and so forth and so on. And so I'm like, oh, God, you know, these homeless people and they're crazy and this and that. So he goes, well, they're homeless. He said, and there are a lot of crazies, but how they've become crazy is by drug addiction. So what he's saying is that we think there's all of this crazy population, but really it's caused by um, drug addiction and alcoholism, by them burning out their brains, and then there's no way back.
Mhm.
And I found that really alarming. I was just like, wow, because I always feel at my office building down on I'm up a couple floors, and so we have homeless sometimes that gather outside and they scream and yell and fight, and scream, and all kinds of things go on. Someone's passed away out there, and we're not in a
Mm.
bad neighborhood, but you know, it just happens. And I just always feel like you know that's somebody's brother, it's somebody's sister, it's somebody's mother, it's somebody's aunt, it's somebody's uncle, you know. And I'm actually very I don't know if you know this, but apparently I don't know the governor has signed something. I think it's one of the only things that I've agreed with him on about addressing the mental housing issue, homeless housing issue, to get people that now that I guess we can actually incarcerate them into the mental situation or get them all figured out without their having any rights. That we have the rights now to do that. So I'm hoping that's gonna. I guess it starts in January, so we'll wait and see what happens. But I really, I just think your work would be so powerful in those programs. Like even in Alcoholics Anonymous, I think you should write them. I think you should tell them that you need to be part of their teachings. You know, you probably could give a little course in a booklet that these instructors can then work with those people on. Right? Do you think?
I think that's a little bigger than
No.
than than well, I'll really think about it because I don't want to be closed minded to anything. But truly, that is what happened when I went to adult children of alcoholics. I went, oh, this and what I do is very powerful for me.
Yes.
Maybe it is for someone else. And that's truly why I wrote that
Because when
book.
we have these thoughts, nobody's asking us the question why.
Nobody
We are
does.
asking us the question why, but we are not in the right frame of mind because we are thinking these thoughts.
Right. And you're right. I never did. When I was young, I went to a therapist. I paid a fortune. I went once a week and then it got worse and worse and worse. And then I went twice a week. And every time he found out more things wrong with me until I was truly suicidal. And thank you, all the angels of the world, of the whatever,
Uh,
that I went to a school called GROW, Group Relations Ongoing Workshops, because I was separated. I had this wild 2.5-year-old child. I had only worked backstage off Broadway for $1 an hour, building sets and running costumes, working box office.
uh,
And and that school, all of a sudden, there were groups. And that's where I came across the option method, which was the foundation of what I do. But there were groups in everything. There was poetry therapy and family therapy and gestalt therapy and group dynamics. I mean, and there were 50 youthful offender inmates from Rikers Island who came in
Wow.
on a bus during the day. And my eyes were like, they're they they would be an hour and a half group that would solve a problem that I had been working on it for 2 years in therapy, getting nowhere.
Oh,
And that school was only in the world for about 3 years, which was all I needed. But I wish it could still be there for everybody.
right.
Um, I know there's some wonderful therapists in the world, but it's based on a completely different approach from what I do. It's based on finding what's wrong with you and labeling it and diagnosing it. And I don't even go near any of that.
Right. Right.
I just want to be like a belief detective
Yeah.
to find out what's in your way.
Well,
What's in
well,
your
and
way.
I think that normal therapy has it, like for me, because I didn't know anything about it when I first started to go to a therapist. I knew I had problems, but I didn't know. And so for them to give me a diagnosis on what they thought my issues were was helpful, right? Because then that got me, I went and had ADD, so I went and got diagnosed with that, and then I went and did um what's it called? I don't know, tone therapy,
Hmm.
and that worked quite well. And so it was good knowing that I had issues and that I felt like they were validated by somebody,
Hmm.
so that then I was like, okay, now that I've been called out and I know what I have, now I can try and take care of the problem. So I kept trying to take care of the problems more and more and more. Got through
Hmm.
that. I think that served enough, right? And then I was looking for
Yeah.
more. Uh,
And therapists are all different. One of the teachers at Gross was from New York. Said you got your three kinds of shrinks. You got. He said I don't care what their modality is or what they studied or how many degrees they have. He said you got your three kinds of shrinks. You got your shrinks that patients get better. You got your shrinks that patients stay the same. You got your shrinks that patients get worse. And you were lucky you went to a therapist whose patients get better.
right, right,
And there are a lot of them. I
right,
mean, I don't want to knock it. A
right.
lot of people's lives have been saved and enriched and, enlarged and
Yeah,
enlightened by going to
yeah,
therapy.
and I think that, um, and I got better therapists as time went on too.
As you can tell.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
And you were my last one, but I did get better ones as I went along. It was kind of so it was good to have the clinical diagnosis and then to kind of move through and just keep going and going and going. But I think that, like I said, your work is just so powerful because you realize it for yourself how stupid you've been.
Thank you.
I mean, I pat myself on the back. I'm like, you're so dumb for thinking that way. God, I can't believe it. And I'm not kidding you. And it really, like, I think I was starting my company at the same time, or it was right after that I started to see it. I was just, under a lot of pressure and wondering why I was doing this. And it just gave me clarity, which is great. Not that it's just been absolutely smooth sailing since, but, you know, at least I know I go back to that and I'm like, what are you thinking? Why are you thinking this way? I don't do that anymore, thank God. But because it's been, I think, like 10 years, maybe 12 years when I
I
first came
think
and saw you,
so.
something
I
like
think
that.
so. That was another exciting thing. Very often, when I work with somebody, we can clear up a major issue in 2, 3 sessions. And if I can, I want to. I
Uh,
don't want to work with somebody for 10 years if we can achieve it in 2 sessions. But I don't do that much anymore, and I'm not available for everybody. Um, so again, I'm really so happy to be sharing, what we're talking about this way because this is accessible to anybody.
right, right. It is. It is. It is. It is for sure. Um, you write about the power of acceptance. Can you explain what that is?
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of us have it confused with resignation. People tend to believe if I accept something, then I can't change it. But really, acceptance is the foundation for change. It just means to receive with consent. So it doesn't mean receive consent and keep. It just means receive with consent. So if the universe sends you a hurricane, standing there going, I don't want a hurricane, I don't want a hurricane,
Right, right.
it's not going to do you any good whatsoever. You got to accept, I'm in a hurricane.
Now, how do I
That's the
get
same.
out? Right,
Yeah, now what do I do?
right.
But if I'm doing, why me? Why me? Why am I in a hurricane? Or, oh, I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. I'm in a hurricane. All the ways that we react. But if you can just, whatever it is, if you can accept at this moment, this is right at this moment, I'm okay with this, then that gives you a firm foundation to move in any direction you want. But so many of us believe if we stop fighting what we don't want, then we'll be stuck with it forever.
Right.
And that's one of the most self defeating beliefs
So then,
there
would
ever could
acceptance
be.
be? Because I really believe it, and I'm sure with a lot of people. Anything that happens in my life on a daily basis, I look at myself. I immediately look at myself and how I contributed to it. What could I have done better? What could maybe it all comes back and I couldn't have changed anything and I couldn't have done anything and it just is what it is.
Hmm.
So acceptance sounds to me like self accountability, right? You're being
That's
you're holding yourself accountable for what is happening to you in this moment by accepting it.
that's certainly one aspect of it.
I mean, I use layman terms because I just
Well, yeah.
I'm not as educated as you in this field.
Oh, I bet you are. Uh, that's one aspect of it. Another one is just if you can let people be the way they are. For instance, in my work, I never get anywhere if I can't accept who I'm working with exactly as they are. And it
Mm.
might be that they're resentful, they might be angry with me, because a lot of times when people come up with a belief, they're not as happy to find out that they were stupid as you are. People can get really, really angry, and I have to just accept them or it won't work. So that's an example of just can you be all right with the way things are right at this minute? Not signing on to keep it
Right.
is the basis of it. And sure, self accountability is a wonderful, rich part of acceptance to realize, oh, in my life, most likely it's going to be me.
So what do you think happens, like, for instance, when you have painful experiences and you don't ever get rid of those painful experiences or deal with them from your past?
I don't know. I don't know that it's ever inevitable that you, well, I don't, we'll have to look at what do we mean by get rid of them.
Well, I mean,
Because,
why is it crucial to clear up the beliefs that are from
oh,
painful experience?
so that they won't determine the future, so that the past won't determine what's going to happen now. So you don't get rid of knowing it happened, and you don't get rid of knowing that it was painful. Um, but if you could, like for me, I used to really think, well, how come I don't have a father? And I realized doing my work with my painful experience was, oh, I did have a father. He was just an alcoholic who was lost and fortunately got sober when he was only about, he died at 67. So, but from about 60 to 67, he got sober. Uh, so, yeah, it's important to, actually, Deepak Chopra gave me a quote on traveling free, and it was like to have a past instead of the past having you,
Oh,
which I thought was a wonderful way to look at it.
that's the same.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the
yeah,
same.
to learn how to have a past, but not have the past control you.
I kind of like what you say better, which is let it controlling your future. Because if you
Mhm.
don't handle that stuff, right, it
You
will,
live by it.
it will control your future
Yeah,
and not
because
positively. You know.
yeah, during painful experiences, we come to conclusions that we usually are not aware of and that we never question, but we live by them. So that's why it's really important if there's some aspect of your past that's still affecting you, that you can kind of tell whether it is or not if you look. Most of us don't look because there's the saying, but you don't want to live in the past. No, but you don't want to live by the past either.
Right.
You don't want to have your past control what you can have and be and do now.
In the future. Yeah.
So you're not looking at it to drag it up and, oh, it's because my mother did this and then that happened,
Right.
because that's not it. It's not what happens to us
Yeah.
that determines what our lives. It's what we come to believe about it, what it means to us, that keeps us going, in pain or fear or anger, or keeps us in the grip
Yeah.
of painful
Well, and
experiences.
I think that when you don't let go of it too, you harbor all of that. They say like I always say, I don't allow people around me to say they hate anything, because I think once you say that, you've taken on that energy of hate in your body and physically, and chemistry wise, your body changes when you say certain things. And I think that that word is just horrible to use, because hate's a horrible thing. It's like being mad at somebody, right? You can be pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
The person you're mad at could be, out having the best time of their life and not even a care in the world, and not even know that you're pissed at them. And you're sitting walking around being pissed all the time.
There's that old saying, it's like swallowing poison and expecting the other person to die.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just, I've never gotten it. I've never gotten it at all. That, even in my life, when my mother died when she was 96, and we didn't speak for a number of years, probably 8 to 10 years, and then got back together. She had fallen and broken her leg. And so I went to the hospital because, at that age, she was 83. And you're going, having hip surgery is not good, or broken leg surgery. So, but what it did for me is forgiveness, and seeing, like, I just let go of all the things that happened before, because I was a lot more healed at that time too. And even today, of course, but just letting go of it and just being like, she did the best that she could under the skills that she was given, and letting go of all of that is just an amazing thing for me, for the person who was, who took it all. But like you said, if I didn't get rid of that, what would my future look like, right? Still harboring all of that. So I try and tell my friends that are like younger than me, that are having similar experiences with their parents, that, you're going to change. Don't let your parent pass away and you have these kinds of feelings. Just let it go. Everybody, my most favorite saying is, everybody has a story. That's why I don't judge anybody, because I don't walk in their shoes. I haven't lived their life. And so I try and tell my friends, like, look at where your mother came from. Look at the relationship she was in with your father. Look at this, look at that. You'll see why she is the person that she is, because what happened? She let her past take her to the future, right? Without ever healing her own past, the parent. I mean, my mother was that generation. They didn't do self-help. They didn't read anything, books about how to be a better person or how to raise your children, or they lived by example, the example they were given. So it's nice to live in this day and age and have all of that, available to us.
Absolutely. Well, as we're probably, coming to the end of our time together here, I just want to acknowledge you for your motivation in doing this podcast, that you just want to share the things that have been meaningful to you and helpful to you, with as many people as possible. And what a generous spirit and a generous heart. And I just wanted to wish you so well with it. And I hope, everybody who gets to see and hear about your life as it unfolds, and sharing everything that's been meaningful and wonderful with as many people as possible.
Yeah, the Jimmy Jim James show, that's what it's about, Mandy. I just want, I have such a wonderful, abundant life that it's been because I've been able to see other people's lives and learn from it. And so I want to share people's lives that I think other people would be interested in seeing, and that they could be helped by it. So hopefully with this podcast, I always say, if I change one person's life, I'm done. So, I'm interested in the subjects anyway, but at the same time, I think that to get it out there for somebody to see themselves, what we've talked about in this podcast, just like when I read your book and then called you, was I read the book going, oh my God, this is me. This is exactly who I am. I have to meet with her. I'm going to track her down. I can't even remember how I got your phone number, honest to God. I must have found it on the internet or something because it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm easy to
It
find.
wasn't a success. It wasn't in the book. So I found it somehow, some way, and called you like, hi, I'm a weird guy who read your book. I'd like to come see you. Well, and it helped that you were in Palm Desert, which is an hour away.
Yeah.
So it was a no-brainer for me. But yeah, I really, really appreciate you. And I'm so thankful that you're my first serious guest on the Jimmy Jim James show. And I know it's your intention as well that we touch somebody's life out there today that is looking at this and sees themselves in what we've discussed. So I thank you so much.
Thank you.
I wish you a
Thank
happy
you.
new year.
I'm honored.
And happy holidays.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. If you're watching on your computer or mobile device, hit that red subscribe button below.